Welcome to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
So let's talk about Trump first, though.
Okay.
Donald Trump. You wrote a book on this guy.
I did.
And do you feel like a lot of people fall in this camp? I feel like I don't fall into a real clean camp here, which is I'm not nearly as hardcore Trump supporter for a lot of people. And then I also am too friendly to Trump, for a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And there just seems to be this kind of weird middle ground. I mean, I was just looking over and I have a list here, and I'll just let me just burn through it just real quick because, it doesn't look like he's going to get a second term at this point. And it just has a lot of negative press. And there's a lot of people that just seem like, why would this guy ever be president in the first place? And why would you ever vote for him again? But then when you stop and think, well, maybe that's true. Maybe this guy, what has he done with his time? And just to read a few things, he's kind of gone from pro-choice to pro-life. I don't know a ton about that, but that's what I've read there. Under his administration, the Department of Justice and Attorney General have defended religious liberty. Tax reform, it was Business Insider called it the biggest overhaul to the nation's tax code in 3 decades. Our economy surged, manufacturing grew at the fastest rate in 30 years. African American, Hispanic American, and Asian American unemployment hit the lowest rate ever recorded, which was interesting because that's kind of the one knock is like, I feel like I hear a lot that like Trump's racist. And then as well, when you dig in, like that's a stat that's interesting. Women unemployment is the lowest in 65 years. He's lowered cost for prescription drugs. He made a historic peace deal between Israel and the Arab nations, or some Arab nations. Strengthened our military. He's at least made an attempt to drain this swamp. I know that's a difficult thing to do, but he's at least made an attempt. He's installed 3 Supreme Court justices, 220 justices on the federal bench. Established Space Force, which is kind of cool. Made progress on criminal justice with the First Step Act. Again, something I think people wouldn't think like Trump is for criminal justice. That's maybe a stereotype. Has made progress at defeating ISIS, negotiated better deals with China, expanded sanctions against Iran, greater taxpayer-supported school choice. Another interesting one, made HBCUs a priority. So they got more money in 1 year than any president prior, and he's established permanent funding there. He's taken much better care of our veterans. Interesting, Andrew and I both have a friend here who is a veteran who is now living in an apartment, and pre-Trump was living under a bridge. And This is a guy who served our country in the Vietnam War valiantly. I mean, and he wasn't being taken care of properly, and now he is. Like that was kind of a personal example on the veteran front. And I mean, he's pushed hard for censorship, advocated for free speech, and had to battle this impeachment trial all along. So, just reading that list, probably like a lot of people are like, man, this guy's a hardcore Trump fan. I'm not necessarily. But he has done some good things. So how do you assess Trump?
Well, having Trump as your president and having Trump represent your values is like having your biggest fan be somebody you can't stand. Like let's say your biggest fan going around talking about you all the time. They just love you, think you're great, and you're kind of glad for that. But there's somebody you can't stand and ticks people off. I'm slightly right of center. I'm very clear about that. I'm not extreme right. I'm slightly right of center. So I'm happy with a lot of the things that Trump has championed. But what he has done has angered and distanced a lot of people. His manner, his style. I agree with you. Everything on that list, I'm 100% with. Okay? And by the way, conservative economics are such that if you raise the water level for everyone, then you're helping Black, Hispanic, Asian, women, blue-eyed women, whatever the class is. I don't agree. I don't believe in identity politics. I think you just have a good, strong economy, and all the things you just said happen. Female employment 65% higher than ever. That kind of thing. So all of that to say, I like a lot of the things he's championed. I've got friends in the administration, obviously friends on both sides of the aisle in the House and the Senate. But this is a man who just angers people. This is a man who distances people. This is a man who is so offensive you don't realize what he's done. It's like the doctor who walks out of a successful surgery and insults everybody in the waiting room. Nobody's saying, well, did you just work a miracle on that guy's brain? They're all saying, what an idiot.
Okay.
And that's the sense in the country. And I'll tell you, some of my friends are some of the highest ranking Republican people in D.C. They will work with Trump for policy reasons. Can't stand him. So if they're having to grit their teeth to hang in there, then what he's done in the country as a whole has produced the kind of animosity that's now coming against him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's done very good things. I think he's going to be proven to be, in some arenas, the best president we've ever had. For example, HBCUs. They should go away saying, we don't want him to be president. Obviously, blacks are voting against him in huge numbers. But for HBCU presidents have got to say, best deal we ever had.
Yeah.
So we'll have that kind of mixed legacy. And it's a tough thing because he's done a lot of what those of us on the right, slightly on the right, would desire. But he's done it in such a way you have to hold your nose to be around it.
Yeah. Do you think that so you hear a lot about, this guy is kind of ramrodding, bull in a china shop. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much question. Like, probably should just take Twitter away from him. That would go a long way in public relations, it would seem like. But then when you hear from, I haven't talked to anyone firsthand who's met Trump himself or spent time with Trump, but just reading and clips and things like that, it's not uncommon to talk to someone or hear from someone who has spent time with Trump or met him. It's just like, man, he's the nicest guy.
Yes.
What's going on with that?
Well, I mean, I think it has to do with the way a personality like his gets incited in public issues. At a personal level, one-on-one, he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. He has done things for people at a personal level, help people out, slip them some money, rescue people in tough circumstances time after time after time. At a personal level, he's a great guy. It's why his friends love him. It's why his family loves him. However, when he gets on stage, when he gets in front of the public, when he gets into combat mode, he turns into this other creature. He morphs into this thing that none of us really like. There's not anybody who likes that. I don't mind him championing my values. I don't think I want him as a dinner guest. I don't want him around my daughter.
Yeah.
So that's a tough, way to walk with a guy. So yeah, at the personal level, he's a very, very nice guy, known to call friends and congratulate them, all that kind of thing. It does not translate. It does not translate. You and I both have very good friends who at a private level are amazing. And then you put them in another situation and they either are stunningly incompetent or they're just vicious or, mean or do something that just embarrasses you. That's the way it is with him.
Okay. So I was reading, I know you commented on your podcast recently about John Piper's article. And I forget the title of it, but it was about the election. And then, I don't know if you saw this, but Wayne Grudem responded to him.
Yes.
And Albert Mohler had also written an article. I don't think it was in response to either one, but it was just an article. And the way Mohler put it was something along the lines of, if I'm trying to get in a next-door neighbor, I would like to have Biden as a next-door neighbor. If I'm looking for a president, he would like Trump as president.
Right.
And I thought that was put really well. I also think the surgeon in the operating room coming out and then just kind of being belligerent to the people waiting, I think that's put very well. That seems to be a good description of where Trump has gone wrong. But when it comes to that personality, some would say he is just doing what is needed to accomplish what he needs to accomplish. And this guy is a skilled actor, and he's doing what he needs to do or being who he needs to be to get things done. What's your comment on that?
Yeah, I don't believe that. I think it's actually worked against him. I had a friend once who was stunningly rude, and I heard people say, well, that's just how he makes his point. That's just how he makes an impression. And I just thought, no, he's just being an idiot. He just doesn't know better. I think that as Trump goes and people are kicking him out the door of the White House, people will eventually realize the good that he's done. But he is stunningly insulting. And some of my friends in D.C. are people who have public people who have left the administration. I revere General Mattis, and General Mattis could not stay because Trump did not know anything about General Mattis's arena of policy and was unbelievably rude. And said things like, I know more than my generals. Well, here's General Mattis, don't even get me started on his qualifications.
Yeah.
And Trump doesn't know more, but it's just the kind of thing he says when he gets on stage. So this is what we're dealing with, this maddening guy who does great stuff, but I don't have a better illustration than the surgeon who's just performed a miracle and then offends everybody he's going to run into before he goes to bed that night. And that's what Trump does. And I don't think it's just his manner. I think that's excusing him. I have almost my entire family are Fox addicts and Trump devotees, and they just do nothing but excuse him. And I say, look, if we just could make a 20% adjustment here, he'd get 10 times more done. He's just ticked them off.
I agree with that.
They want to kill him to watch him die in Washington, D.C., I can tell you.
Yes.